Hello, this is Michael Denon, Vice Provost for Teaching and Learning and Dean of the Division of Undergraduate Education here at UC Irvine. This is Conversations with the Vice Provost. This is where we talk about issues with my colleagues that are relevant not just to UCI and the surrounding community, but to the nation, and we like to think the world as a whole. It's my pleasure to have with me my colleague Kate Klimow today. She is our Associate Vice Chancellor for Public Affairs and Chief of Staff. Kate, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, we have three very exciting questions for us today, and hopefully people watch the teaser and they know what they're getting into. But the first, I think, is really, the community. What is it about the community that maybe excites them, or they should know more about UCI, and how are we really engaging with them, and what do we do to do that?
That is a challenge, is how we engage with the community. We have a different kind of campus. We're not in the center of a town. Davis, for example, you can flow in and out between the city and the campus, so we're a little off, so we have to find ways to help the community engage. We've done a great deal, particularly in the last 5 years, to really reach out to community organizations, bring them in. We had a wonderful event called OC Working Together, where we brought in community leaders, nonprofit leaders, matched them with faculty on campus who were researching the very things that those community groups were trying to help with: homelessness, hunger, so other social issues. So that was a really great way to show the community that, oh, there's someone here that can help, that can advance the ball. Some of the simple ways we do it really are with speakers and finding faculty members who want to engage with the community and share what they know. It sounds kind of silly and simplistic, but when we have someone go to the Newport Beach Chamber and talk about sea rise and the flood rise and what they're studying, then we can connect with the Newport Beach City Council, and we can help them get the grants that they need or the expert testimony they need to fix some of their infrastructure. So that's really a very direct way that we can show the value back to the community for what we
And that's an interesting thing you just mentioned. It sounds like it's a lot about us faculty being willing to go out and speak in the community. And I know for me, I'm doing some of that now, and it's a new space to be in, right? And there's a lot of interesting things that come along with it, from the technical things around, honorariums and the event itself, and what level of talk to give, and who am I really talking to. Is there advice you can give for faculty to help navigate that space? I mean, working with your office, I assume, is a good first step.
Well, we're one place. Yeah. We don't work in honorariums. So
no, I understand that.
So the organizations that we work with are embedded in the community. Yeah. But we are a great place to start, particularly to get your feet wet. And if it's through our office, then we're going to be putting you in touch with organizations that we either have established relationships with or we've vetted. And we can certainly make other connections if that's an experience that faculty members or staff want to have. There are certainly other ways. I know there are apps and using technology to put yourself out there and be known, but we can certainly help get those things started.
Well, I like the service piece too, though, that you mentioned, right? By picking the right organizations, you're not only giving a talk on your research, but you can help out that group.
Absolutely. We work with business organizations like chambers, advocacy groups, special trade associations like home builders or apartment associations, and they're all dealing with the similar issues that we study here. It's transportation and housing and infrastructure and how we fund things, and what does our community look like in the future. And we can really provide the research that supports, hopefully supports what they want to do, but at least gives them the knowledge that they're going in the right direction with public policy.
Do you find, so our accolades have grown. UCI is getting much better known for all the things we do. We are sort of younger child maybe to UCLA, USC. Even interestingly enough, Chapman is getting a lot of presence. Is the community in Orange County really coming to grow to understand our role and what's unique about us, say, compared to a Chapman? And how can faculty maybe help with that or hinder that?
I think they are, because we're doing a much better job, we collectively as a university and individually from faculty members, to get out there, to be speakers, to bring forums to campus with panels of experts and national leaders. And again, don't mean to make it sound simple, but sometimes people need to be invited in.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And if they haven't been to this campus, it can seem overwhelming, but if we have a national speaker, and they come, and then it's not so scary. I spoke in the teaser about the Rams, but...
Yeah, I was going to ask that next, so good lead in.
Events like that, our special events, really are a great way for us to bring people to campus that haven't been here before. Yeah. When it's the Rams, we're able to do the social networking, but we're able to use you.
Yes, exactly.
And the science of football, and really show how the things we do on campus are applicable to real life. So we use all of those tools that we have available.
Now, one thing I noticed, so I started here, I won't say how long ago, but it was, I can say, 20 years ago. And, you know, when I moved here, there was a reputation of Orange County being very politically monolithic and very libertarian, more than conservative even, which was something I had to learn. I didn't even realize that. And I can imagine that might be a tension for a university where when you have two conflicting stereotypes, right? You have the stereotype of a conservative area, and universities get stereotyped as being very liberal. Yes. Now, I have to admit, I don't feel that tension as much, but maybe it's just I've gotten used to it. In your role, that must be something you've navigated over the years, and kind of where I'm actually taking this question out of the blue, Kate. So, yes. But I thought I'd throw it there to you.
Well, I haven't checked lately, but I think we have more registered Democrats in San Francisco. Okay. We actually have a much different community than we used to, and we actually have a hard time. We have to educate elected leaders and even people outside of our community that what they think of Orange County isn't what we are anymore. Yeah. It's not the Orange Curtain. It's not old white guys driving Cadillacs. It's a diverse, rich, wonderful place that has a variety of opinions on everything, and many found right here on this campus.
Which I think is something people don't realize about the university, is how diverse our faculty are in their opinions and views, which is sometimes a challenge for us internally, but...
Well, we have the faculty and we have students. Yeah. And sometimes, particularly in my line of work with government relations, when we're advocating on issues, that can be challenging to find that singular point where we all agree. But in my line of work, I've been in public affairs my entire life. That's a challenge no matter where you are, whether it's a large corporation or a small nonprofit. You're going to get a mix of opinions about which path to follow.
So that, I think, leads very nicely to our second topic. You mentioned the government and being active. And I think no one could deny that there is a starker contrast than usual right now, perhaps between the California state government and the federal government, which must have an impact on your role, your job, how your team functions. I'll just leave it at that for you to start commenting on.
It does very much, and even within the state, because our delegation is majority Republican, and we're operating in a state that is controlled by the Democrats based on the majority in the legislature and statewide offices. So we get a little push-pull there sometimes, just between our delegation and what's happening at the state. And then we have the reverse. The federal government, we're fortunate. We have a congressional delegation that's majority Republican because that matches the leadership at the federal level, but how they view things and how our state legislature views things can sometimes be in conflict. And again, that's much like we were talking with faculty and students. Our job is to help kind of thread that needle.
Now, at that level, though, I again, not knowing anything about it, though the views may be different from the federal and the state on some of these areas, are they also tend to fundamentally be different, interested in different issues because of the way we relate to them? And does that help a little bit? Can you maybe help people understand a little bit where that comes in?
So one thing that is very different is the speed at which things work.
Okay.
It feels like things maybe go slowly at the state level. You want change and it doesn't happen right away, but it's much faster compared to the federal level when we're talking major policy issues. Right. For us, for the system, every year we're dealing with our budget. Every year there's multiples of hundreds of bills that are impacting a program, the school, the system. At the federal level, it's much slower. It may take several years, and the issues are much higher level. I'll say bigger just because it's national policy.
Yeah.
So we're talking, student financial aid is Pell Grants, and it's loans, and it's this massive level. At the state, it can get very, very granular.
Right.
We can write things that are just for this segment and sometimes this county.
Right.
Depending on who's writing
And
it.
actually, is there a sense, so I grew up in the Northeast, not really aware of the California system, but then I went to grad school at UC Santa Barbara, postdoc at UCLA, and so I've been kind of experiencing the system, working my way south, sort of. But my very naive outsider view is that the UCs tend to dominate, at least at the government level, the conversation of higher ed. The UCs, the Cal States, and the community colleges, that system dominates the conversation. And the idea of privates and the for-profits and those schools, they're there, but from the government perspective, maybe aren't playing a major role. Whereas at the national level, they might be because of debt and student loan and financial aid, and those are the more expensive forms of higher ed, that the privates, the for-profits, those maybe drive the conversation, and our issues might get lost in that conversation. Is that at all true, or?
I think that's true to a point.
Okay.
At the state level, actually, where we seem to have a challenge is there is the master plan, and when that was set up, there was an audience for each segment, for UC, for CSU, community colleges. Somewhere along the way, that's gotten peanut buttered.
Okay.
And they're all kind of looked at the same, or we see it with pilot programs with bachelor's degrees at community colleges and graduate degree programs at CSU.
Right.
It's in a way to solve a problem that perhaps isn't there, but so our effort is really to not just assert UC, but help electeds understand the difference, why they were established, and what audiences they're serving. At the federal level, I would say that privates and for-profits probably have more, well, they do have more influence because they have an ability to leverage resources to have a louder voice. The individual systems, like UC versus CSU, that differentiation doesn't show up in the federal. It's state schools, it's public schools versus private, or maybe it's certain clusters. They'll differentiate between community colleges and a university, but not the different levels of it.
So I don't know why this just triggered a thought, and it's kind of our segue to our last topic. So our final topic, if you saw the teaser, was students and their enrollment. But it occurred to me a piece maybe in transition is faculty and our ability to help you, our ability to engage. Maybe I know as a vice provost was the first time I've made trips to Washington, D.C. and met with people. And I found it fascinating. I happen to enjoy it, but I think that's just because I really like talking to people. But we're moving into a different era, and I think as faculty, we have to understand and embrace there's more going on with the university. We're not as simply as the state funds us, good, we're done, and we go do our thing. And how do you see maybe the future of that a little bit, and then we'll talk about students and their involvement.
Yeah, the competition for smaller and smaller pie is becoming more and more strong. Right. So we need to be good at leveraging every tool and resource that we have. And we enjoy taking the faculty and staff and alumni and students to Sacramento and to DC when appropriate. So we can put a very human face on the issues that we're talking about. So we do have that opportunity. We try to work very hard to get our faculty, in particular UCI, to be experts for hearings and for testimony, both in Sacramento and DC. We sometimes get overlooked because we're a fly-in campus. It's easy for Davis and Berkeley because they just drive to Sacramento. And East Coast schools, same sort of thing. So we have to work much harder to not to be on the radar, but for them to not just default to who's nearby. But that's another way. We are also trying to build a I'll call it an advocate or an ambassador program. The UC system has one called the UC Advocacy Network. We have Anteater advocates. We tend to activate it when there's an issue.
Right.
Our budget's about to be cut by 60%. Everyone write a letter. Yeah. What we want to do is make the communication a little more regular and find ways that we can provide messaging, talking points, facts to interested faculty and staff and students so they can share that information, even if it's simply with their neighbors. Yeah. I mean, we're a #9 public university in the country, and unfortunately not everyone knows that. Yeah. But just giving someone those facts, even our points of pride, and say, talk about those, then they're stretching our message, and it's not just one or two of us that, on the day we happen to be in Sacramento, but it's the entire community. And speaking of the community, so as a former, and I say that with relaxation, soccer coach, right? The more I knew, as I had leadership roles in the university, it helped to be articulate when people complained about what we were doing, to know why their complaint was not valid, which I think goes right to students. No, but I think our students, right? There's one thing we didn't mention in the teaser, I think that we do have a great thing for our students is our UCDC program, UC Sacramento. That gets them right there in the places. But what are some of those opportunities, things we can do? Is part of the university's goal is to educate citizens. And for our students, where are we? We do have a few alums that have gone from their alums into elected office. Right. And we do try to bring them back to have not necessarily big forums, but just to interact with students if that's an interest. We do the usual things like internships, right. And we have partnerships with wonderful organizations. For example, the Association of California Cities, Orange County, which is a really long name, but it's an organization that's comprised of the 34 cities in Orange County, as well as some corporate entities that support it. And that's a great way for our students, if they intern with that group or attended those events, to get to know their local elected leaders. And as glamorous and exciting as Sacramento is or DC is, there's really the important part of it is being connected at the local level. All politics is local is one of those old sayings, but it's true. You're much closer to your city council. You see those members at the car wash and the grocery store. You can tell them right off what's wrong. But those people are serving on regional boards like the Orange County Transportation Authority or SCAG, which is the Southern California Association of Governments. And those regional boards are the ones that are making policy, that are determining where our roads are going, that are determining where we need to have higher density housing. So you want to know your city council members because they serve a much larger role in the region, and they're often the ones that then run for state office or federal office. So it's a way of building a network throughout time. And I think underlying that, I know, as you mentioned in the teaser, we have big campaigns around voter registration when it's an election time. I wonder, this seems like it would really help our students understand that there's a way to be participatory more often than just, as important as voting is, that because it all builds, that the city council does matter, that going to these meetings do matter, and you don't even have to be running, and you can slowly trickle your effect through the system. Absolutely. You don't even have to go to the meeting. You can sit in the privacy of your dorm room and watch a meeting on your TV. They're almost all televised now. But it's a great way to learn about what's going on in your community and see how these issues change. And a recent council meeting I was at, this Irvine City Council was examining whether to put in a Wild Rivers, a water park at the Great Park. Oh, the place was filled, as you can imagine. Very exciting, very, very important stuff. Well, when there's a session about I don't know, a park, maybe there aren't as many people there, but it's as important because it's determining how the city is going to look in the next few years. Our students have been very passionate and very concerned about their fellow students regarding housing insecurity, and that's a great issue to be involved with, not just at the city council level, but planning commissions or regional groups. And that's one of those places where we've tried to connect our students and our community groups and advocacy associations as well as government.
And so something else I think, this is kind of like a final question I think that our students can learn that I see, because in my role I interact with the students' leadership and student government. And it's fascinating to me to watch them grow in their understanding of the interconnection between us, the state funding, the tuition, you know, where often you see gets all the blame if tuition goes up and the connections aren't seen. But just in general, I think, because of the way our society's evolved in media, and you always hear everybody complain about the media. This isn't really a complaint about the media, but it is true that it's easier to be a single kind of issue person in this day and age. There's more outlets to get that. And to learn the connections between issues sounds like something that could be, there's very few avenues to learn about those connections, and this is a way that a student can learn and see that.
It is, absolutely, because it's, you know, it's not just about how long you have to wait at the light at an intersection. You know, the traffic, a lot of traffic means you have a booming economy. Right. So you don't want to necessarily get rid of traffic, but maybe you have so much traffic because you don't have enough housing. Well, why don't you have housing because of some other policy, some other decision that was made a few years ago? So we try on some of these bigger issues to show how all those dots are connected. Or how those zots are connected.
Right. Ooh, I like that.
We're zot connectors. So we are eager to be a resource for our students or others who want to have those connections in the community, and that's where bringing people into the community to be speakers, getting our faculty out into the community to share the information they have on the research that they do can really truly make it a conversation and a place for dialogue, and UCI can be the center of solving problems.
Awesome. Thank you, Kate. That's a great note to end on. So thank you all for clicking and watching this video, and look forward to more conversations with the Vice Provost. Thank you. Thanks for watching. This is the time where you get to be part of the conversation. Comment below. You know the drill. You know how to do that. Subscribe, follow us, look for us on all our social media, and stay part of the conversations. Thank you.